Good afternoon. I'm Jeffrey Pollock, the music director of Sinfonia Ancaster, and I'm here to tell you all about a great concert that we have coming up, the first concert that we have on November 1st at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center, where we are going to be playing a program called Question and Answers. And the first piece we're going to play is a piece chosen by Charles Ives called The Unanswered Question, that musically asks the perennial question of existence. And then we are going to have a couple of answers on the rest of the program. And we're going to play a symphony by Mendelssohn that provides an answer that is religious. And then we're also going to have a series of songs by Gustav Mahler. And here on this call is our very special guest, Christopher Dunham, who's going to be singing the songs with us. Hi, Christopher. How are you?
I'm well. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. So, Christopher, we're really excited to have you joining us on this project. Christopher and I had the opportunity to work together on some Messiah performances last year, and that's where we came up with the idea. And Christopher actually pitched this idea. Christopher, what draws you to these Rückert songs that Mahler wrote? What draws you to them?
Well, I'm a romantic at heart, and Mahler is such romantic, drippy, delicious music.
Hmm.
And my first teachers were always very wise in teaching me to say, when I'm searching for new songs and new pieces to work on, that the poetry is the first place I should look.
Mhm.
And I did some education in a German literature degree and found Friedrich Rückert as a poet one of the most profound and easily accessible for my own heart space.
Mhm. Um, so we're gonna this cycle that we're doing, we're doing five songs together.
Yes.
Four of them which were performed together, and there was that additional one that he put on the Liebst du um Schönheit.
Yes.
What can you tell us about the text of the songs? You mentioned about your connection with them. What can you tell us about what they're about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is from a collection of Gedichte, which is just poems. So you can find another, I believe, 20 or 30 some odd poems in this collection. So Mahler himself chose specific ones to be set here. And, unlike the rest of Mahler's sets, which seem to have a theme or at least a narrative that collects and connects them, the Rückert-Lieder are a little eclectic in that you can program them in almost any order. The poetry does not necessarily connect one piece after the other, but they all seem to share sort of an ethereal understanding of the universe.
Hmm.
Getting really artsy with my explanation here.
I love it. It seems it ties in, I think, with what we're doing.
Yeah, I hope so.
One
So,
of one of the poems that really leaps out at me is the one called Mitternacht, at midnight. What can you tell us about that?
Mitternacht is first and foremost, it's the most difficult to memorize because it's got a repeating stanza that happens at every stanza. It starts with Mitternacht, and of course Mahler set each of these to different rhythmic values. It's slightly different pitches also, so it's a real trick to memory. But the poem itself. You can interpret it as a call to God. You can interpret it as a watch over humanity. And I think that's the great part about this late Christian influenced late German romantic poetry is that it starts stepping away from the concept of God as a proper noun, a thing that sits on a chair, and more begins to understand God as this enormous unknown force. And so Mitternacht kind of lends itself to that majesty. At midnight, we wait. It's in like all the power is in your hands, the clearing of the skies, sort of like really big, bombastic stuff. And in comparison to the rest of the poetry, it almost sits out of place with how enormously profound it is compared to the one that you mentioned, for instance, Liebst du um Schönheit,
Mhm.
which is about telling your lover exactly what kind of lover you want. So the connection between the two is only the human condition, but
Sure.
both profound in their own way, I guess.
On the song that I think is my favorite of the set is Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen.
Yes.
I am lost to the world. You talked about metaphysics and at midnight, but the poetry of Ich bin der Welt is really one of isolation and very internal, very intimate sentiments.
Ich bin gestorben, und Ruhe in einem stillen Gebiet.
Yes.
How do you connect to the poetry in this particular song?
Well, I love connecting this piece and another piece in this set called Blicke mir nicht in die Lieder. And I think the sentiment is actually quite similar for both of these experiences. One just tends to be a little bit more profound in sense of self and identification of self in the world, loneliness, the separation, the not being called by humanity, living alone in your own love and in your own peace. And I really relate to that as a classical musician because, as you know, and other classical musicians listening will know, we spend an incredible amount of time isolated in our little booth practicing for hours.
Absolutely.
And if we're not, and to me, that's the sense of like, not to get hyper dramatic with it, but that's the sense of, oh, it's been too long since I've been in the world. That's how I feel when I'm contracted to sing a whole opera and I need to pour 200 or 300 hours into that piece to make sure it's correct. It feels like I've left the world for a little while to live in my song, live in my love, which is music. So that's how it relates to me, right? And then Blicke mir nicht in die Lieder is the same sort of tangent, but sort of a pestering, fun nuisance kind of way, with the violins acting as bees,
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I find really remarkable about these songs from a conducting point of view is studying the orchestration. When, as you probably know, when Mahler wrote these songs, he wrote the piano version and the orchestration side by side at the same time. One didn't exist before the other, and so they're sort of equally valid treatments. But it's hard for me to imagine just on the piano because the color of the instruments is so individualistic. And I think of Mahler as being huge, grandiose, enormous symphonies, but these are tremendously intimate pieces. And
Yes.
the writing is chamber music. In our rehearsals, the orchestra is figuring out how to sort of be individual soloists. We're not, I mean, each with their own role and with a tremendous amount of delicacy. And I think that, at least it strikes me, that these songs, that the voice, your voice, is just like one more instrument in all of that texture.
Yeah, there's something Bach-like about that. There's something ancient and German about being just an instrument as a part of this whole thing. And that though the poetry and the voice are important because they're songs, oftentimes I'm sharing incredibly gorgeous melodies that are actually horn melodies, not mine. I just have to complete the phrase. So it's a lot of collaborative effort on this one, that's for sure.
Right. Last thing to think about is that these songs came out of a time period for Mahler when he had suffered a near-death experience. I mean, he was passed out on his floor, like bleeding everywhere, and he really thought that this was going to be the end. And these songs were some of the creative output that came as a result of that. Do you feel a real sense of, I don't know, connection with reflections on mortality in these songs? Does the music speak to you like that?
Yeah, the moment you connect those dots for me, and I'm reminded of all the research I did on Mahler myself. I think like now that I've shifted a lot of my life into the film industry, and all I can think of is that the Rückert-Leider to me looked like a movie of someone going through a near-death experiences, and all of these eclectic moments are flashing before their eyes, and that 1 or 2 seconds was actually an eternity. And that's where the unanswered question comes from, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And with the answers that the songs provide to that, and then with our concert ending with the Reformation Symphony of Mendelssohn, which is also a big religious answer to the question, we're making sure we're being careful. We're not saying these are the answers. These are some of the answers to this big question. And for my part, I will be really pleased to see how you, with your voice, help to answer that question through these beautiful songs of Mahler and these great texts of Rückert. We're really thrilled that you're going to be with us, and I hope you all will come and join us on November 1st at the Ancaster Memorial Arts Center for a performance of a program we called Question and Answers. Come see me and the orchestra. Come hear Christopher sing these songs. Christopher, thanks so much for taking the time to be with me today. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.